Hey guys, it's Jenna. Welcome back to my channel today. Today's video is super exciting because we're talking about the new Pat McGrath palette. This is the Huetopian Dream. I'm so excited, and I really pushed some very interesting boundaries today with my look. For the first time ever, I put some shadow underneath my eye, and that's not typically something that I do. I wasn't sure if it was going to make me look sick because it's kind of like an interesting reddy pink color, but I think I pulled it off. Let me know down below your thoughts, but I actually tried so many shades today so I could give you a very adequate first impressions. We're going to talk about all of the comparisons. There are quite a few from her other palettes. Then we're going to talk about if I think this is worth your money or not. So let's get started. First of all, let's talk about the packaging. The outer packaging is her very classic Mothership style outer packaging. A lot of people keep these actually. They keep them for their collections. They put their palettes in here, and it's kind of nice because it does offer a kind of cool little like fold option. So you can see you can fit that palette right in there if you want. I really like the outer packaging of this. It's very like unicorn vibes, daydreamy. It's interesting to me. It's very heavily pink as well. So there's a couple opinions about this palette when it comes to if it really should have been like a Divine Rose 3 kind of situation, or if it should have been its own little palette. But we'll talk all about that a little bit later on. But this is the outer packaging here. It is absolutely stunning. Similar to her other Motherships with that really classic graphic design, and you can see it includes a little shade kind of map there too. There is no shade names on the palette itself or on the back, so it's nice to keep this little thing too so you can kind of be guided when you're following tutorials. So that's awesome. The packaging is cardboard as well, so it keeps it nice and secure. This palette is her latest Mothership. You can see how absolutely stunning this palette is. This is the same price as all the other ones. It is 125 US dollars, 170 Canadian dollars. It's now at Sephora as well if you're interested. And Pat McGrath launched I think it was like an intensifier product. It was something that you could put over your lids and then you can add the pigment over top to really amplify them. That is something that I have coming in the mail, but I don't have it today yet. So I will let you guys know how that works out. But this is the gorgeous palette. Now, a lot of mixed feelings about how she promoted this palette versus how it actually looks. There were quite a few blues in the promotional imaging, and I thought this was going to be a little bit more rainbow-esque, if I'll be honest. This shade here on the wing does have a little bit of a blue, like a purpley blue element, so I can see where she maybe drew blue from in the inspiration. This palette is going to appeal to a lot of people because it's very wearable. These colors are colors that I'm very familiar with and that I really enjoy, and I know a lot of people love pinks and browns and adds of golden sparkle as well. When it comes to her Mothership palettes, friendly tip here, they are very expensive, so she does actually put on very nice sales multiple times a year where you can get up to 30%, sometimes 40% off of a product if you have an additional coupon code. So if you can wait, it is best to get these palettes on sale. That's how I've accumulated the majority of my collection. I think there's very few that I've actually paid full price for, which is really nice. So you don't have to do that either. But do know that the next sale that she does put on, it might not include this release because she'll typically skip the most recent release when she does a sale. So the last sale she did, it was just after her blushes were launched. And of course the blushes weren't included because it was a new release and people were upset about that. So just so you guys know, to anticipate, it'll probably be a few sales down the line until this one is included in it. So if you can wait that long, it'll be worth it. If you can't, there's also the VIB sale coming up at Sephora. If you're Rouge, you can get 20% off at that time. What I really wanted to do was take a look at the formulations. The Mothership palette here is made in Italy, and these, in my opinion, are the best formulations that she comes out with, sometimes even better than her quads. They do include a wide variety of different finishes. So we have matte, we have shimmer, we have very interesting textured finishes, like textured shimmers. The Blitz Astrals on this side, we have duochrome. Love, love, love her palettes, and this is definitely going to be a runner-up when it comes to my favorite palette of all time, because this is definitely one that I can see myself wearing a lot. The look I created today to test out so many shades started out with priming my lids with my Smashbox 24-hour eye primer, let that sit, and then I went all over the lid with the very soft shimmer shade. This is called SKINSHOW Nude XTASY. So it's a long name. This one's really beautiful though, no fallout. It's a really nice kind of creamy shimmer, has a little bit of a white aspect, a little bit of a slight pink aspect. It's really, really nice and multi-dimensional, and this is one that applied beautifully. She does shimmers very well. This is the shimmer texture in her palettes that doesn't have the fallout situation. It's still quite creamy and a little thicker when it comes to texture. Next, I went all over the lid with another shimmer. This is Cosmic Bloom. Cosmic Bloom is right here in this palette. I wanted to go all over the lid with this one and see how much dimension this would add over top of that really nice white shimmer shade. And this is one that adds a little bit of a lighter hue of pink. I was actually kind of surprised. I thought maybe it would be a little bit more like pigment heavy up front. I thought maybe the look would turn into a really deep pink quickly, but it actually didn't. It was offering a bit of a light to medium opacity, probably with that brush that I used, and it added a little bit of a pink tint to the look. So you can absolutely build it up, but then you're gonna get quite shimmer heavy, which is okay. I love shimmer. Pat McGrath loves shimmer too, so me and Pat with the shimmer, we're besties. Really nice performing shade as well. Teeny bit of fallout with this one. Could be that it's because it's a little bit of a lighter shade. It's not as weighted, not as creamy as the first one. And also I'm layering over top of another shimmer, so there's quite a bit of texture already going on. The next shade I went into is a matte. Now these mattes, it's funny, I have quite a few Mothership palettes now, and this is the matte here, always in this corner that tends to swatch a little drier. However, when you do apply it to the lid, it's totally fine. So it's really nice and easy to blend out. It's certainly not stiff. You can add it to the outer corner, which is what I did, and it worked very, very well. So this was a shade that I just wanted to add a little bit of dimension there, and it's perfect. I just use a regular synthetic brush for this one, so you don't have to be super, super brush crazy when it comes to how you can apply these. They work really well with synthetic. They work really well with natural haired brushes. Don't be freaked out with the swatch because it can feel a little weird on swatch. Like I said, almost drier, but applied to the eye, perfectly fine. Next, I wanted to get into the Blitz Astrals. Now, these are always typically situated, like I said, on the outermost right side of the palette, typically the last four. So this quad right here. The first one I dove into is actually this guy. So this is the most textured out of the entire palette. It's quite flaky actually. If you swatch too much, you'll see that the flakiness tends to come up as you're swatching, as you're working with this shade. So I did try to apply it with a brush first. This is actually a Sonia G brush, and it really needed something. It wasn't applying at all with that brush really well. It just didn't stay on the brush hairs. So this is something that perhaps her little like intensifier product would work really well, because I think it's supposed to be like a bit of an adhesive. I'm not sure, but you could use a glitter glue with this to really help with that pigmentation or really to get that amplified look. But I used a fingertip, and because of how flaky this one is, it did fall on the face. Granted, I do have quite a few shades on my lid at this time, but in my opinion, it's one of those very flaky shimmers that she has, similar to some of the flakiness that we saw in the Eternal Eden quad, which is up here. This is the one that, you know, I feel like you need glitter glue for these, or you do need some patience. They do fall all over the face a little bit easier, and the gold here reminded me of that experience. Not as bad, but definitely had some kind of mess going on here. So just to keep that in mind, I applied it in between the shadow shade I used and the rest of the pink that I had done on the rest of the lid. Looks gorgeous. The next Blitz Astral that I used is way over here. Super pretty. This one right here. This one's called Astral Venetian Orchid, I think. It's a very interesting name. Astral in the shade name kind of gives it away, but it is a Bliss Astral formulation. And this one, super, super pretty too. I basically put it on the other side of the gold. Super, super beautiful. All of these shades are very, very cohesive. No matter what the finish is, I feel like you can work with these really well. So she did a good job when it comes to the user friendliness of this palette. There are some palettes in the past that are quite bold, and they may be a little bit scary to people that don't typically use bold colors, but this one is just very, very easy to put looks together. Next, I wanted to go in with a nice pencil brush. I went in with the Astral Amethyst Moon shade. This is another Blitz Astral. It's right here actually in the palette, and I went in the inner corner with this one. You can see it adds a little bit, but nothing crazy. I really wanted to incorporate that purple, but I didn't want it to be like super loud because it was quite a beautiful pink theme here. So this is absolutely beautiful. Here's something new that I did as well. I actually went in the bottom lid and I did that same matte. So this is the matte Extreme Plum Noir. I forgot to mention it in that other step there, but it's in the bottom left corner. Did a little bit under the bottom lid there, and it's funny, I really wasn't sure if I was gonna look sick because it's kind of like a deep wine color, but I think I can pull it off. So I feel fairly confident with this one, and I'll probably continue to do this because I haven't been doing this and I've been a little like sketched out to do it for some reason, thinking it was gonna look too messy, but I think it looks really nice. So I'm very, very proud that I decided to do that as well. I also added lashes today, which is a big change for me too. I don't always typically wear lashes. It's kind of a nice little touch to amplify this glam a little bit more. Out of the 10, I tried 6 shades today in this look, and so far, very cohesive. Like I said, formulations are on point, very similar to all the other motherships I have. Like, look at all of these. I also have 3 in my drawer, so there's quite a few in my collection now. Because of that, I feel fairly confident to let you guys know that the formulation is solid compared to the big 10-pan motherships that I'm used to using. Now let's talk about the comparisons, because there's one palette that has very similar shades in this, and I'm gonna kind of round it out with my overall thoughts on this palette so you guys know kind of what I'm thinking when it comes to deciding for yourself if this is worth purchasing or not. First of all, let's start with the swatches of this palette, the Huetopian Dream. Super, super gorgeous. You can see how these shine. Super beautiful shimmers, very shimmer heavy palette, of course. So if you are a matte gal, perhaps you might feel a little bit disappointed that there aren't that many mattes. There's actually only 3 in this palette, so they're great anchoring matte colors, but the majority of this is definitely very fun shimmers. I took a look at all the palettes I have for comparison's sake, and the first one I pulled up is actually Sublime. A couple shades in Sublime looked a little close, so I did swatch both of them, and you can see the 2 mattes are definitely different. We have Sublime that's a little bit more of a lighter purple, and the Huetopian Dream is a little bit deeper purple, but those golds are a little close. I did get a couple questions about how this purple looks next to the purple in Midnight Sun. They're absolutely different. Midnight Sun is more of a richer purple blue, and the Huetopian Dream one definitely has a pink element to it. So it is absolutely different shades. You can afford to own both of them because they would offer very, very different looks. Next we have Divine Rose 1. Now Divine Rose 1, of course they all distinctively are different, but I would say that the closest shade is definitely the shimmers on the far left, because we have Huetopian Dream, which is a little bit more of that pinky element, and Divine Rose has more of a white kind of cream element. The rest of them are different enough in my opinion when it comes to comparisons. Closer yet are the swatch comparisons in Divine Rose 2. Divine Rose 2 is a bit of a bolder element, and the shade that I thought was very, very similar was actually the duochrome in Divine Rose 2 versus Huetopian Dream. They are different, but they both have a very interesting greeny shift. However, Divine Rose 2 has a purpley shift, whereas Huetopian Dream more of a richer kind of burgundy shift, but they are quite close when it comes to how they shift. When it comes to some very similar swatches, we also have this quad here. I think I called it Eternal Eden at one point. I think I mixed that up. But anyways, these are also fairly similar when it comes to swatch comparisons. You can see the shimmers are pretty close, but of course they have some slight distinction between them, very slight undertones. The mattes are closer yet, with one of them being slightly more purple, more red, so very, very close. Do have some distinction between them, but the one on the far right both have that gold element. So the one in the quad is a duochrome it has a pink to gold shift, but when it actually shifts to the gold, that gold is very close to the gold in Huetopian Dream. So they're definitely not repeat shades, but I can absolutely see why if you are a collector, you would have very similar shades in your collection already. So just keep that in mind when it comes to whether you're going to purchase this or not. I think it's kind of like Divine Rose 2 and this quad here had a baby, or like these are the children of Huetopian Dream, because there are very interesting inspirations pulled from both. And that's why I think I completely understand why people are assuming that this could really have been like the third child of the Divine Rose collection, because it really does work well with those shades. I think that you could mix and match all three palettes very easily. So that's going to be really up to you if you think that purchasing another palette in the rose kind of, you know, ensemble or theme is actually worth it for you. Friendly tip though, do wait for her sales to get really, really good deals on these, but as a whole, this palette is so well performing. Definitely pulling some inspiration from other palettes for sure. I do agree that it could be Divine Rose 3, but this is Huetopian Dream from Pat McGrath Labs. What do you guys think of this eye look? What do you think of the palette? All of the comparisons, do let me know down below. All of your thoughts, of course. Until my next video, guys, take care and stay safe. Bye, guys.